sure, go ahead. So I write a draft of the scene, which is basically like a restructure of his. And I sent it to him, and he said, oh yeah, I get what you mean. I really like it. I would do it a little bit more subtle. And I was like, so, I mean, I think it's really good. And then I go like, all right, well, why don't you do it a little bit more subtle? And then so he writes it, and it's just so much better, you know. And so I know, but it's somehow a shorthand when you can put it into words, into crude words, and send it to him, and then he goes, oh, I get what you mean. Let me do a version of this. But usually it was just, that was the only time I put pen to paper. And usually it would just be conversation, and I would call him and Tessa. And Tessa is really good in development, and she has great notes, and she's very good in the editing room also. Great thoughts and finding the essence or the core of the movie. And it's really good, you know, really good. She gives really good guidance. And so it would be me, Tessa, and him just on the phone talking about, on a Zoom, talking through the script and going bit by bit and, 10 pages at a time or something.
Wow. Well, to my understanding, there are a few key changes from book to screen. I think the biggest is probably Isabella Rossellini's character, Sister Agnes, is a bit more elevated in the narrative. But you kind of change the nationality or the region of service of some people, like our protagonist played by Rafe. You change his name, age, and nationality. Bellini has a change of nationality, same with Cardinal Benitez. So I'm curious about some of these kind of subtle changes narratively and what the story was.
Yeah, I mean, those name and age and nationality changes are pure practicality. The great thing about making a movie in the Conclave is that it's truly international. You can cast from anywhere. It could be from Asia, Africa, South America, North America. It doesn't matter. Catholics are everywhere. And so that's and we try to do that. Italian, African, English, American.
That's also reflecting the reality of the church today, right? And so it's also reflecting the global world.
Yeah, I mean, and there's more and more, less and less Italian. It used to be much more Italian. To the chagrin of the Italians, there's more international cardinals. And that's why you suddenly have a Polish Pope, a German Pope, and a South American Pope. Which you didn't have for 500 years. They had for 500 years it was only Italian popes because most of the cardinals were Italian, and now they're much more international. And so most of the cardinals were Italian who voted for the pope. And so, so that's practicality. In the book, the lead is called Lomeli, Cardinal Lawrence is called Lomeli, and he's Italian. And we were open to casting that person from anywhere. But at some point, you wake up to the reality and you're well, we're going to have to make a movie. And audiences are going to need to have someone on the poster that they know. And usually those people come from, very rare exceptions, usually those people come from either England or America, maybe Australia. They're English speaking. And I woke up one morning and I thought, why don't we ask Ray Fiennes, because he's not the loudest character. He's the guy who likes being in the second row, who likes, he's not an alpha, he doesn't scream. Actually, he doesn't even want to be there. He wants to be a monk, so he's reluctantly there. And Rafe is someone who wonderfully invites us to what's going on behind his eyes. He lets us look into his soul. He takes us by the hand, and he can just look at you, and you know what he's thinking. And that quality made him perfect for Cardinal Lawrence. And so I thought that would be silly to make him play in Italian, suddenly they go, and then I thought, why don't we just make him English? And same with Stanley or Isabella's role we make bigger because, she's the only woman in the film, so let's at least give her a little bit of a stage. And then same with Carlos Diaz. He's in the book. He is from the Philippines. We looked at the Philippines. It's a very, very hard role to cast. And we wanted that person to come from, maybe a country that isn't so much in the limelight always, a so-called first world country. So we looked Philippines, South America, we already had an African cardinal, so we thought, those continents, we look anywhere in Asia. And we found him in Mexico. And it felt like he was the only one where you look into his eyes. It's mostly casting, those changes. Because Carlos, you look into his eyes and you think, I believe him. I believe, that final speech is very difficult to deliver, very difficult to land. And you need to believe that that could be true. And I wanted that person to be unknown, that we don't go in and say, oh, I saw him in Breaking Bad or whatever, and he needed to be like a really, like us watching him innocently. And the other cardinals looking at him innocently, like to come as a surprise. And then, a big change is also the ending. But those are actually, it's like tonal shifts. For example, in the book, there's, Benitez goes on the balcony and waves to the masters and so forth. And I thought, I've seen that, and if you notice in the movie, we don't show Rome, actually. We could have shot this movie anywhere. We could have shot it here, probably in Palm Springs. We shot it in Rome, because the atmosphere of it, but we never show Rome. Because I felt like we kind of know what St. Peter's looks like. We know the black smoke, white smoke, kind of.
The movie is about what's inside.
Yeah, it's all shut inside, and so the ending, he was going on the balcony, and I thought, let's just go away with Wave.